In case you missed it, we are smack in the middle of August. That might be a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But the weather is still beautiful, the sun shines, flowers are still blooming, beaches are still packed, and my family is going on vacation next week. Undeniable, it is still summer. And yet, unfortunately, in the last few days, I've begun to feel the shift. Camps are ending. School starts for many in about 2 weeks. College students will return. And we're about 5.5 weeks to Rosh Hashanah. No matter our age, our stage, our faith tradition, we tend to see September as the start of a new year, which makes this moment, these last weeks of August, transition time. The season hasn't quite changed yet, but we can feel it. It will. And this year, I'm especially aware of how emotionally uncomfortable that makes me feel. Because we are holding so many realities at the same time. We take these long, warm days as a time for rest, rejuvenation, quality time with friends and family. Summer invites us to put things down, to look away from anxiety and complexity so that maybe we can heal a bit. It is so much easier to put things down than it is to pick them up again. But there is a lot to pick up. Busier schedules, return to routine, the season of introspection and focus on our faults, not to tell you, but Elul's coming, and the world, which is literally and figuratively on fire right now, here in Israel, in Ukraine, in many places. A colleague this week told me that her 3-year-old is melting down nightly. After weeks of late-night swims, ice cream past bedtime, looser schedules, her child is a mess and is losing it, which is not fun for the parents, but my response was, at least she's being honest. This week, actually, I had several meetings. I met with several stressed out parents worrying about their kids' fall. I met with a 25-year-old who recently left a job only to find out that her fellowship was canceled because of everything going on. And I have talked to several people who have been losing much sleep over their fears about the future of gay marriage, the troops in the streets of D.C., war in Hungary and Gaza. I could go on. And the funny thing about all of these people I met with, they're all also packing to go on vacation next week or the week after. And it wasn't the advice I gave them at the time, but afterwards I thought, I bet each of them would have felt much better if they could just allow themselves to have a good toddler meltdown. Or at least like a cry, like to let it out. Like, they're full of stress. They should feel it. Because at the end of the summer, even though it's beautiful and we have fun things and we're still in it, this is the transition from ease to responsibility, from distraction to awareness. And that is emotionally uncomfortable. I am there. You got to preach what you know. So, as we look ahead, there are plans to make, conversations to have, realities to face, questions to ask, lessons to learn, and we're going to do all those things, individually, communally. But in these waning weeks of summer, we're not doing them yet. We're just beginning to notice that there's a mountain ahead, and that eventually we're going to have to climb it, and that might be daunting. This week in Torah, the Israelites are on the edge of their own monumental transition. After 40 years in the wilderness, they're about to enter the land, build their society, and face the peoples already living there. Speaking in the voice of the Deuteronomistic view of history, Moses plays the role of threatening parent, warning that if they obey God and Torah, they'll be blessed. And if they don't obey God and Torah, they will be cursed. Now, I find this part of Deuteronomy less than inspiring. Most of us know that there are countless factors, economic, cultural, political, technological, religious, that shape military victory or defeat, that determine whether there is famine or plenty. But I want to offer a less popular teaching from this portion. Because if you look carefully, the portion is actually much more complex than it seems. It provides us with seemingly contradictory teachings that feel, to me, especially relevant right now in our moment. As the Israelites stand on the precipice of great change and prepare to meet their new neighbors, God teaches them two contradictory things. First, God warns the people that all the nations in the land that they are entering are violent, even dangerous, and God prepares them for the conflicts and wars in their future. But then, a couple of verses later, God reminds Israel and says, Adonai, your God, is not partial and takes no bribe. God executes justice for the orphan and the widow and loves the stranger, providing them food and clothing. Love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So what is it? Should we fear the stranger or should we love them? As Professor Adele Reinhardt teaches, these two views may express a before and after perspective. Hostility reflects the process of settling a land that was already occupied by other peoples. The imperative to love the stranger reflects the ethical stance of a sovereign nation. For modern readers, however, they sit uncomfortably together in the same Torah portion. The contradictions don't end there. There is much in this portion about God's relationship with Israel, and God describes that relationship in very contradictory ways. On the one hand, God calls Israel a stubborn people who provoked God's wrath repeatedly. And Moses, to really get it in there, retells the story of the golden calf and the broken tablets, two of Israel's greatest failures. For 40 years, he reminds them, they have carried these broken tablets with them, the literal weight of their failure. And they're bringing that brokenness into this promised land. And yet, it's not all berating the people. God loves them. God reminds them of the covenant. God says that I will love you, bless you, and multiply you. I will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground. It is tempting for us to smooth out the contradictions in life and Torah, or at least pick the one we like better, right? That's the temptation. But we actually really shouldn't, because I think there is power in this complexity. The ancient Israelites were trying to understand their place in the world. Deuteronomy was written over several centuries during the First Temple period. And in that time, they were a smallish people, surrounded by other nations. Some were more and some were less powerful than themselves. They were trying to figure out how to exist in a world where not everyone was like them. And they were a people struggling to define a countercultural, monotheistic God who was full of love, jealousy, protection, anger, pride, and disappointment. They imagined their God to be extraordinarily complex. And contradictions are not always mutually exclusive. We can know that there are dangers in the world, that there are people who mean harm, that there are conflicts that are hard to avoid. But we can also believe that there is kindness, both to be found and to be cultivated. We can recognize our power. We can also recognize the places we feel powerless. And we can also feel the immense moral responsibility that we carry. Similarly, our spiritual lives are also not simple, and they don't have to be. We can be confused. We can be uncertain. We can feel like this whole God thing's mysterious. We can feel loved and part of a great whole, while at the same time also feeling lonely and adrift. As the Israelites prepared to move from nomadic refugees to established nation, they needed an honest reckoning with the complexity ahead. They didn't need platitudes. They didn't need empty promises. So for us, in this moment in time, we feel so much this time of year because we too face complexity. We face moral complexity. We face personal challenge, communal challenges. We face uncertainty. And like our ancestors, we carry both hope and dread, power and powerlessness, love and fear. And we don't have to smooth over the contradictions, although that might feel better. We don't have to smooth over our own kinks. We don't have to pretend that late August is super fun. It's okay to be emotionally uncomfortable sometimes. So, in the next 2-3 weeks, Let's have another beach day. Let's spend time with loved ones in the sunshine. Let's laugh together or cry together or talk together or whatever it is that we need. And trust that we have the deep spiritual, moral, emotional, social resources to meet this new season together in all its gorgeous complexity. Shabbat Shalom.